Hi, my name's Azure. Welcome to the channel. This month's theme with the collective check-in were around fear, judgment, and distraction. And so it doesn't really matter if you watch the collective check-in or not. You can always go back and do that. But what the guides wanted me to talk about this month were those three themes. And so today's video is going to be about how to shift from fear to love. And what they were telling me, and it's a funny story. So I was recently out at Costco, actually, and I was joking around with my husband about how my shopping experience at Costco is way different when he's there and when he's not there, right? I'm a total gatherer. I like to go up and down every aisle. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, look at this thing I found." And he was joking with me and he was just like hashtag unsubscribe. Like he's like, "Don't even tell me about what you're doing there." And it was funny at the time, he was joking. But what came through is that we don't unsubscribe in our lives often enough, right? We feel bad, or we feel ashamed, or we feel that we have some duty or obligation to stay subscribed to things that don't any longer feel aligned. And so that includes relationships, that includes maybe accounts that you're following on social media, that includes ideologies that maybe you grew up with or don't any longer feel aligned. And what happens is that we feel some sort of loyalty to it. We feel guilty or feel like we should not leave something that we have that has felt aligned to us in the past. And so oftentimes it's hard for us to walk away, and that includes relationships. It can be relationships with family, loved ones, friends, and it's hard because we're taught we're meant to be loyal. We're taught that a good person stays around through thick and thin, right? And what they want to say is that there's nothing to feel ashamed about when you feel like you are aligning with what is meant for you versus what is no longer serving you. And this is how we come into more alignment with ourselves, with each other. And there's nothing to feel ashamed about when we walk away from relationships, ideologies, platforms that once felt maybe like home to us. And they're also not saying that. So, and they want to say that sometimes it feels aligned to leave. Sometimes what happens is that, and we have to look at this very carefully, is that when we are going through an expansion phase and when we are going through a phase of aligning better for what is meant for us, oftentimes we are a little hasty to walk away from things because we feel like either we're judging it, that it's not on the same level we are, or something like that, or we are hasty to make that decision because we feel like it's going to hold us back in some way. And so they are saying to kind of be careful and not to be flippant or not to be too hasty in making these decisions, but that it's also okay to make those decisions and to have no shame about it. So the theme was unsubscribe without shame. And they came with that first because the next part of it is there's this intense call to evaluate what is fear driven or what is driven to instill fear. This felt like it had to do a lot with platforms, whether it be news outlets, social media platforms, podcasts, YouTube channels, anything like that that you're you're getting information from an outside source, right? So it's not information that is coming from source or from your inner knowing. It's coming from an outside source. And that could be relationships, it could be all of it. And so there is, when I dialed in this month, there was this extreme call to really analyze, like, once you engage with something, someone, after you're done with it. So let's say you are watching a reel on Instagram, or you are watching a video or listening to a podcast. After you're done with it, do you feel clenched? Do you feel like you're in fear? Do you feel like you are contracted? Or do you feel like you are expanded? Do you feel like you are lighter, right? These are things, it is going to be extremely important in the next year or two to be able to start to feel these things in your own body, because we are being called to, if you're being called to begin to align with yourself and your own inner knowing, then you need to start feeling what makes you feel in what way, right? And so, are you feeling contracted? Are you feeling expanded? When you interact with a person, after you're done, do you feel contracted or do you feel expanded? Do you feel drained or do you feel energized, right? And we are being called to really dial into that, and specifically around, is this instilling fear in me? Is there something new I'm afraid of now? Am I feeling, is it fear? Is it love? Is it fear? Is it love? And so there is this huge call, and it was extremely powerful around fear. And so what they gave me is this image of like a bicycle pump, and it wasn't a bicycle tire, it was like a ball or something, and you're using the bicycle pump to pump up the ball. And there's this, like, when we consistently engage in things that are fear-based, it's like every time we do, it's like womp, 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 womp. And the thing becomes so tight and so ready to burst. And then people do burst. This is what happens, right? Is like we engage with these things, womp, womp, womp. And then before you know it, it's like kaboom, right? And so we just want to be aware. There's no judgment around it. They're saying that it's really hard to not have some of that sneak into your life. So there's no judgment around it. And in fact, the things that really drive engagement are often sensational, or they're often heavy emotion producing, right? And so what they're saying is to just be aware of it, and then decide, is this for me or is this not for me? Is this how I want to feel? Is this not how I want to feel? And then you'll likely be drawn more to things that make you feel light and expanded. And there's no shame around that. There's no need to be loyal to something that makes you feel contracted, it makes you feel drained, makes you feel fearful, that makes you be judging other people or yourself. If you are in judgment of yourself or others, it's all of this, right? If you're distracted, if it's something that is perpetuating the cycle of distraction, all of these things, and those two things will be different videos, but these are the things we want to begin to look at. And so that is the message on fear. And actually, it feels like they want to say something else. So just give me 1 second and let me see what they have to say about this fear. They're saying, do not fear the fear, but also that the antidote to fear is love and gratitude, but love. And so it sounds like they want me to explain, because it feels maybe a little bit abstract when I'm saying, when you engage with something, does it instill fear in you? And they're bringing to my attention that not everybody knows exactly what that means or what that feels like. And so I'm just going to go back to when I engage with something and I then, you know, so an example that's coming up is I'm engaging with some sort of content or even someone who has really strong beliefs in something, and it's feeling very like doomsday or something, right? They're saying, and I'm like, you can't just be this flippant with this message because people are not going to react well. And they're like, but it's true. So anyway, sorry about that. So they're saying, whether or not tomorrow the world ends, it just is what it is, right? What do we have to be afraid of? What we have to be afraid of are the things that people have told us to be afraid of, that we're not perfect enough, that we are, if the world ends tomorrow and life ends, right? Our lives end, that there's fear around that. There's fear around this type of prediction or something that is being given, right? And it can be that black and white. So that's one example. The other example is that fear can show up as like fear of not being good enough, fear of not being loved or lovable, fear of not not being enough in some way. And so if you walk away from an interaction with someone and you're feeling bad about yourself, you're feeling like your confidence is down, you're feeling just not empowered at all, that can also be a, a feeling of fear. And so fear doesn't have to be doomsday, right? Like I think that's what we think of when we think of fear is like, oh, it's the doomsday predictions or something like that, right? And it's not. It can be different and more subtle. And the way it shows up is that sometimes is that it's the feeling of not being enough or the feeling of just kind of feeling bad about yourself when you're done with that interaction, or feeling like hard on yourself, or that you're not trying hard enough, you're not doing enough, you're not right. And so those are all feelings of fear, because at the end of the day, this is all about survival. Fear is about it's really the survival mechanism. And so when you're in survival, you certainly cannot be in your full potential because you're worried about, am I going to live or die? And even if it's, am I enough or lovable or perfect enough or whatever it is, that's all goes back to, because if I'm not, I'll die, right? And so when you are really trying to evaluate if something's in fear or in love, those are also things that you can look at. Is this in survival or is this not, right? Does this feel contracted or expanded? And so they wanted me to kind of explain what it meant and the other ways that it could feel, because it's not just limited to, is there going to be a big catastrophe in this earth? You know what I mean? Like, it's really not just that. It can be that, but it's not only that. And so hopefully that helps, and will help you kind of discern what you interact with, just going forward. So I hope you have an amazing day, and I'll see you next time. Take care.